Hi, welcome to our second video of 2023. Like our first video of the year, which we released last week, this was recorded before the Christmas break, so please forgive the odd reference. Okay, so we've all heard of rate shoppers, but have you heard of a rate shopper for corporate rates? Keep listening to this discussion with Connor van der Holm, founder and CEO of Topline Revenue, and you will hear about a corporate rate shopper solution that will be hitting the market very soon. Really hope you enjoy the conversation. Let's roll the intro. Hey Connor, good to see you again. How are you doing? Getting ready for this festive period?
Yeah, Trevor, doing well. Just trying to stay warm out here in Idaho. How are you?
Yeah, very good indeed. Okay, so we're recording this before Christmas, but for anyone watching it, it's come out after Christmas. So I hope you all had a good Christmas.
Yeah.
So what we're going to get into, so this is a brainchild of yours. Now, obviously, anyone that's watched our previous videos, listened to any of our podcasts, should be aware of Topline now as your revenue management consultancy that you founded. But what we're going to talk about today is slightly different. So let me stop and just pass it over to you and just say, right, what are we talking about today? Introduce it to us, because this I think is well, I think it's great. And I think it's like outstanding that it hasn't been done before and that you've kind of spotted it. So tell us all about it. What are we talking about?
Thanks, Trevor. Yeah, we're going to be talking about Fence, which is our new software under development currently. It's a corporate rate shopping tool. So it's going to allow hotels within the branded space in particular to shop their competing hotels, again, branded hotels, for their corporate negotiated rates, whether that's done on a national level or whether it's done locally. They're going to be able to tell what the Fairfield down the road is selling to Boeing or selling to IBM or some of these big corporations or even a local negotiated rate. So it's going to allow them to really get an idea of where the market sits when these RFPs come through, and it's their time to rebid on them. So
you're pulling back this curtain now that's kind of sat there and everyone's been trying to work it out. So, okay, we've got rate shoppers that are out there generally. I'm not aware of another corporate rate shopper that's out there. Is this the first?
Yeah, so really good question. So as far as the software goes, we believe it is the first. Right. I've been asking this question for years, and I have gotten nobody that I know of has told me of any other software that exists here. Okay. So I think that's, and I speak with a broad base of folks. I think that's pretty accurate. But I will say, doing it, this is a very old method. It's a very old thing that's been done for a long time. Okay. It's just done manually. It's just done cloak and dagger. It's just done in all these forms that are not efficient and not modern, right? So I'll give you an example. There's a couple of companies that exist that perform the service of rate shopping for management groups or hotel owners, operators. Basically, what you do is you submit a spreadsheet worth of, here are my competing hotels. Here are the corporations I'm looking to find out their rate. Would you get back to me in a week, right? Okay. So you submit this form, they pick up the phone and physically call each of the hotels pretending to be from those corporations and say, hey, I'm with Boeing. What's my rate next Thursday? Right. And so then the front desk agent may or may not give them the correct rate. They may just shoot from the hip. What are you going to do?
I haven't got time
they
to
give
do
them
this.
retail.
It's a figure.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they put it in their little spreadsheet there and they say, here's what the bar rate was for that day. And so make all the assumptions that you want out of it. And they charge per call.
Okay.
A few dollars per call is typical for these. And I'm aware of at least two companies that do this. And then they kick that back over to the management company and they can decide, okay, is this information accurate? And if it is, if we believe that it's accurate, then we can go ahead and bid appropriately. The other way that it's being done is property teams that don't employ a service like that will make the phone calls themselves. Okay. Right? Or they'll go find a corporate code, like within their same brand. Like if there's a Hilton hotel, they know what the corporate booking code is for Boeing. They'll go to their competing hotel's website, they'll punch in that corporate code, and then they'll see what the rate is, right? Yep. The problem with all those scenarios is it takes way too much time. It is not accurate. And because it's so manual and tedious, nobody's doing it to the extent that they probably should be doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They all do it to an extent. They're just not doing it regularly. So when those RFPs come through, you need to be able to quickly identify with accurate information what your competitors are selling to Boeing. And then you can put on the best bid. That doesn't mean the lowest bid. It doesn't mean the highest bid. It means now you're informed where the market stands. And so your bid is an informed one. It's not shooting from the hip.
And I guess when you get the RFP come in, there's a need to respond in a relatively timely manner. There's business on the table. You don't want to be having to source somebody to go and find those rates for you. You don't want to necessarily have that question mark: is it accurate, and how long is it going to take until I can use that information to do something about it? So not only is it time consuming if you were doing it yourself or outsourcing, there's that time of it just having to be completed as a project anyhow, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because we found that especially with local negotiated rates, not necessarily the national accounts, but on the lower local level, the hotel that responds quickest with a generally reasonable rate generally secures the business.
Yeah.
And so it's about timing and doing that quickly, to your point. And it's just not one of the most common questions and bits of feedback I get from hotels when I introduce this to the hotels which I'm beta testing right now is, well, is this to be used on a daily basis, or is this like once a year during RFP season? Like, that's the main question I get pretty typically.
Good question. Yeah.
Because they're only familiar with doing it during RFP season for the big accounts, right? Because on the local accounts, there's just never been access to something like this that can give them an answer that quick. And so we're changing that. We're saying, hey, you can have access to this information year round, and it's meant to be used year round, because your director of sales is going after those accounts year round. They're not waiting from June to August and then they're done.
Absolutely.
Those RFPs just regularly come through, and obviously we should be soliciting some as well. And so that's, to your point, we're completely changing the way that the RFP process is approached, and it should be a continual thing, and it can be done really, really quickly.
And I guess to your point, if you didn't have this option and had to go through the two scenarios you outlined before, are you really going to invest that time? You might do for a big national account possibly, but are you going to do that for a local account? You're probably not, which is why they wouldn't necessarily have bothered going out to try and see what the rates would be like, because just time and the money that would be taken to get that done. Whereas if there's a technology solution, suddenly that opens it right up. So why has it not been done before? Because we've just spoken about it. It seems totally logical. We all do it we all have a rate shopper for our normal rates. Why has this not been done before?
So I've thought about that for a long time, right? I've really kind of dug into that. Like, this seems so obvious that it needs to be there. Why has nobody done it yet? And I've come to the conclusion that, one, people who have access to the information that is required to do this on the hotel operating side aren't innovators, right? So they have access to what they need to be able to build this, and more importantly, kind of the know-how of what they're looking for, right? But they're not innovators. They're not software developers. Like a management company, even a large one, like say the Aimbridge of the world, right? They don't develop software. No, they just don't, because they're focused on operating the hotels to the best of their ability. And then the brands couldn't do it because they don't have the access needed for the competing brands. And so that they don't have the know-how. They don't understand how their RFP processes work. But there's a few of us that we live within the space of all the brands, right? We operate in that space and know how each of them operates, and we're innovators. And there's not that many of us, right, that are doing the software development. And so that's the conclusion I've come to. And those that I know that do software development are very involved in the development of different software that they're working really hard on and making beautiful and perfect. So it just hasn't been touched. And so that's where we come in.
As you said, it's one of those things that when you first outlined it to us, and when I said to you, we've got to get you on to talk about it because it just seems so blindingly obvious. It was all those questions Okay, and not being disparaging to you or
Yeah.
anything. It's like,
Yeah.
why? Because we all ask the same question when we start businesses up. It's like, why are we doing this? Why has no one else done it before? And I think, as you said, it's about having, it all comes down to the data at the end of the day, isn't it? It's the accessibility to the data is the first element, because if you don't have that, well, then it doesn't matter how
Dead in the water.
entrepreneurial or,
Yeah.
or innovative you might be. And then secondly, you got to say, okay, what can I actually do with this to provide something that's going to be of value to
That's
somebody
right.
else? And that's where
Third,
you've got to.
and the third piece is, who wants to invest the kind of money that it takes to develop this,
Well, there is that as well.
right?
Yeah.
And that's another component as to why management companies and operators don't do it. Like, software development is very expensive,
Mm-hmm.
and like, there needs to be a payout at the end of it, obviously.
Yep.
And there's only a few of us that see that, where it can go and how much you can charge, and have a network of companies that you can beta test and then actually sell it to ultimately. And management companies just don't do that. Like, why would they? If you want to invest a few $100,000 into some software development, just for your internal, company, it's not happening. That's too big of an investment,
It'd be a
right?
hard argument to get the ROI from that, isn't it?
It'd be really difficult. Yes.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So you've mentioned a couple of times your beta testing at the moment. So where are we? Because I guess once people have watched this or listened to it and connected the dots, there's going to be okay, is this just something that I'm watching in a wait and see, or how do I engage? What's timelines? So just talk us through where you are, and if someone is interested, what can they do?
So just a real good thinker out here called Simon Sinek,
Mm-hmm.
and I heard something from him the other day, which I would echo. He was talking about making pancakes. Okay,
Right.
and bear with me here. I'll
Okay.
get to the point.
Okay.
And he said that when you make pancakes, or whatever you call them over there in
Yeah,
UK,
they're pancakes. Yeah.
when you're making crepes, it's a
Yeah,
great
crepes.
example,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
You're making some crepes. You go through the first one, and it's going to turn out horrible,
Yep.
and then you scrap that one. You get to the second one, which is going to be slightly better, but it's still not serve worthy, right? Get rid of that one just to get to the third draft, right? You get to the third one, which is what you're going to actually sell. So we are in what we would call the crappy first draft, right? We're proudly in the crappy
I
first
was going to
draft.
say, yeah.
The system works, and it works really well. We're just now tuning it to make it more user friendly,
Mm-hmm.
and to just really address it the way that a DOS or a general manager would use it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're beta testing. We've got about 30 hotels we're beta testing right now. And I'm actively suppressing other hotels, which is very exciting for me, but other people keep asking me about it, or they get wind of it, and then they come straight to me, and then we demo it, and they say, I want on this. And I say, you have to wait.
Yeah.
We're not quite there yet. I don't want to give you something yet that isn't polished. And so our goal is to be within quarter 1 of this next year, to be ready to launch to the general hotel public, if you will. Yeah. Right. It's likely going to be towards the end of
sort of March, or that kind of, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because I don't want to put something out there that's not, more polished than get to 80% launch, that sort of thing. Right.
I got it. That makes sense.
So that's where we're at. It's very exciting. A lot of work.
We'll obviously make sure with this, we'll make, obviously they can connect with you on LinkedIn. So even though you're not selling it to anybody at the moment, there's many ways they can either contact you via Topline, they can contact you via LinkedIn, they can reach out, if only just express an interest and say, hey, think about us when you go live. We want to know a bit more about it.
Yeah, and I'm happy to people show people around where we're at with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's generated a lot of salivation, I can say, from a hotel's perspective, because this is information, again, that everybody wants and should have access to. So, but I'm happy to give out teasers and do some demos for it. Just know that we're not going to be launching and going live till a little bit later.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, we're gonna do that with you. We're obviously, we wanted to get this out to kind of get the message out there, let people know, and then we'll obviously follow up with you. We'll do something where we have a little bit of a deeper dive behind the scenes, look at what it's all about. Once you're happier, that it looks a little bit more polished. But really, really exciting. Obviously, I've known you for a while now as one of our partners, and we've had numerous conversations. But when you mentioned this, it was like, okay, that's. I'm super excited for you guys. I'm super excited for you, and I think it could be fascinating to see what hotels go on and do with it once they get access to it. So brilliant
Yeah,
stuff.
we hope so. I think it'll be a game changer. I think that, but we'll see what it ends up being, right?
Hey, well, we got
Again,
our
the
fingers
data's
crossed.
there.
Yeah, well, it's
Data's
there, isn't
there.
it? Absolutely.
Well, and ultimately, Trevor, I don't know if I told you this, but the reason that I did this, the reason I started this to begin with, was as a revenue manager working with on-property sales teams, right? Um, Oftentimes the missing component in your mix of sales is the negotiated piece.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a huge chunk of business. Okay. For a lot of hotels, that's the majority of their business.
Right.
Okay.
Interesting.
And I got really tired of on revenue calls pointing out that what we're missing here is the negotiated piece, but not giving any help to the director of sales or
Right.
to the general manager in achieving what is their job, not mine.
Yep.
Um, and so I was like, you know, we can do better. We can create tools. We can create stuff to help them with their job, because every hotel is different. But the DOSs in general, they don't have any tools. They don't have anything. We revenue managers have tools. You know, we can find those, and they're new and upcoming. We've put a lot of attention there,
Mm-hmm.
but like the corporate piece, we're just not doing anything. So I just wanted to help them out, and then realized, oh wait, like this helps everybody out. Like this really helps everyone, and can be complete. It can be a game changer. It really, really can. So, I mean, you land one of these accounts, Trevor.
Yep.
In case you don't know, if you land one of these corporate accounts, you're talking about tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars a year.
Oh, it's a massive change.
It is massive. So anyway, we're excited about it. Thanks for taking the time today to let me explain a little bit, give
No
a little
worries.
teaser there.
And we look forward to get you back on again and go through it in some detail. Well, I hope that conversation was interesting, and thanks again to Connor for joining us. If you would like to see more of our videos, here is the link to our Expert Insights playlist, and here is the link to our Coffee Time Chat playlist. And here is the button if you'd like to subscribe. Thanks again for watching.